We're here at the Renaissance of Marriage Conference 2018 with Bishop Eugene Hurley, the Bishop of Darwin. Bishop Eugene, marriage is not easy, but the world makes divorce look easy. This kind of messaging from secular media, and sometimes family and friends even, is especially difficult for couples who are undergoing challenging times. Can you give a quick overview of the focus of your talk here at the Renaissance of Marriage and what you want pastors to do in response to their flock who are suffering?
Yeah, thank you for that. It's an absolutely valid observation. I was privileged to be one of the two bishops from Australia who were elected to go to the Synod on the Family, which is a wonderful privilege and experience. Certainly, Amoris Laetitia, the joy of love that came out of that Synod by Pope Francis, very much talks about just what you're saying, the difficulty experienced by people who are trying to do the right thing. We live in a very secular world, and the secular world doesn't value marriage as we would. And that's why I think it's nice to make a distinction between marriage and the sacrament of matrimony. And then there's no confusion, because different people have different ideas of what marriage is. And in that sense, we're just one of the pack. And in a secular society, people say, well, from my point of view, marriages stay longest where the honey's sweetest. That's what marriage is. Now, it's not what marriage is for us, but that's the secular world. So I think two things. One, it's good to make the distinction and say, no, we're talking about the sacrament of matrimony. Then we know what we're talking about, and the secular world know what we're talking about. And so we need to have the mind and the heart and the touch of Jesus Christ, the author of the sacrament of matrimony. Having said that, the church, all of us, need to understand that when you've got two people coming together to share their life, they have a whole history that they bring to that relationship. They call it the family of origin. It creates who we are, and we come from different places, and here we are together. That needs careful care. It needs... In the Vatican documents, you find that the Pope talks about remote, proximate and immediate preparation for marriage. And remote is when we're coming up in our families. So many people now don't have the experience of a mum and dad living together, loving each other, fighting and all the rest of it, but loving each other, creating a safe and loving home. They don't have that experience. So I think part of our job as priests anyway is to listen carefully to that experience and share with people, walk with them in that difficulty, in that trying to adjust and doubts and worries and all sorts of things that happen in the marriage. Keep walking with them to a new place where they say, oh, I get it. Love is about the other. Love is about the other. My happiness is the happiness of the other. And that's what you talk that word covenant. Oh, I understand it. Covenant is where I give myself to you. Finish. If you give yourself back, good. If you don't, I still give myself to you. And I think that our job as priests is to open up what is the goodness of people. They love each other, but they're not sure what that means sometimes. They're saying, oh, yes, but we're arguing all the time, there's this and that. So, yeah, that's okay, that's all part of it. Listen, let's have a look at what love really is. Look at what you're doing. Look at all the good things you're doing. Yes, these are difficult, and as Pope Francis says, we need 3 words over and over and over again. Please, thank you, and I'm sorry. He says they're the kind of the tools of trade. If you're going to be married, say please, say thank you, and say I'm sorry. And there's simple things that we can do, but people live under great stress these days. Fly in, fly out where I am. Mainly men, not only men, but they spend so long away from their families. And they come home and they're like a visitor. And mum and the children have got their things going, and when Dad says, oh, I'll take you to school, the little one says, oh no, Mrs. Smith picks me up for school. And so he's kind of sitting there, not even taking his little child to school because he doesn't have a role there anymore. So These are serious things that we need to take into account. It's no good just talking about, marriage is wonderful and you've got to love each other and forgive each other. What does it look like on the ground? And that's why I think this year, in our diocese anyway, it's a year of commitment to listening. What's it like? And I've been an army chaplain for a lot of my life, and where I am now there's big defence force, and I know that mainly, again, men, not only men and women, are going on 2, 3, 4 deployments overseas to places where it's not pleasant. And when they come home, they're different. And often they don't want to share that with their family, but they're different. And this creates a hiatus between their beloved. There's something new and strange about this person. They're different now, and they can't seem to reach them. Well, now as pastors, I think we've got to listen to that. We've got to be aware of that. We've got to say, I think we can help a bit with that. You're not out of love with each other. This is life. This is a difficult wound that you've suffered. And that's why Pope Francis talks about the church as being like a field hospital. We are wounded. There's lots of... But that doesn't mean that we can't heal it. But we've got to work hard, we've got to pray hard, we've got to listen hard, and we've got to offer real help. And the main help, I think, finally, is that we need to walk with people, hand in hand, and that's what he calls accompaniment. Don't be judging people, walk with them. And he says, don't turn doctrine into stones to throw at people and hurt them. We know the doctrine, and that's the ideal, but people trying to live up to it, we've got to walk hand in hand from place to place, place to place, reminding them of their dignity, reminding them of the possibilities, reminding them of God's love, reminding them of the healing power of God. And we walk gently with them to this new place.
That's really wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Bishop Eugene.
I did spend 12 months really listening very carefully to the voices of families and people around Australia before I went to the Synod with Archbishop Coleridge. But I must say, for me, the great education in family comes from my own family and being brought up in that family, and over 50 years of being a priest in and out of families all my life. They've certainly formed me as a priest and as a person. And also a third of my diocese are Aboriginal people, so I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people here on whose land we meet today, and I want to acknowledge their ancestors, past, present and emerging. I suppose I'd want to provide some context for what I say. Can I say firstly that I'm a Catholic? I'm a priest of more than 50 years. I love being a Catholic. I love the Catholic Church, and I've never been able to understand God's goodness in allowing me to be a priest. I've always been excited out of my brain about being a priest, and I've never been more excited in my life than I am today. And so the context in which I speak comes out of that reality. At the Synod, Pope Francis, on about the second day, there was some sort of little rumblings about the final arrangement as who's to draw up the final document and so on. And there were little rumblings about all of that. And so Pope Francis had addressed the 300 odd bishops and the laity and the people from other faiths and said, I understand there's some difficulty about this. Let me just say what I've done. And so he just went through step by step and said, are there any questions? And a number of heads began to drop because there were no questions. And he said, look, why are we here? We know the doctrine and we know the law. Nothing is going to change. That is the doctrine. That is the law. But if we gathered from all around the world and taken a year or 2 years listening and praying to come here and say again, hey, this is the law, is that why we're here? Or is it to say it a lot louder this time? Or this is the doctrine, and are we here to say it again and say it even louder this time? We've all gathered so that we can say it even louder. Is that why we're here? He said, we know the law. We know the doctrine. But, and I'm paraphrasing here, he said, what I want to know is, what is that law, what does that doctrine look like on a Saturday night with some woman and 2 or 3 little kids cowering in the corner waiting for some drunken buffhead to come home and beat them up again? What does it look like that night? That's what I want to know. And then in my own heart, because I know many of these people, when they finally leave that rotten situation, which they should have left years ago because it was never a marriage, they find and fall in love with some good man who actually loves them and loves their children. And so they make the decision to marry. Immediately do that, we say, gotcha! Can't go to communion. The Pope is asking, what does that look like? What sort of doctrine is that? What sort of law is that? And when there was some controversy, I said at the beginning about the law, he said, I am so pleased that we're anxious about the law. Because let me tell you something. Mercy is the law. Mercy is the law. So if you're worried about the law, first be deeply concerned about mercy. And can I tell you from 50 years of experience, mercy is not a concept. Mercy is an experience. And if people don't experience mercy, it is nothing. It is a concept. Mercy is what you and I experience. And if we don't experience it in the church, then we experience nothing of God's love and gentle mercy. That's the call of Amoris Laetitia. Not to change the law, not to change the doctrine, but to remember that mercy is the law. So our concentration must be on how do we be merciful. None of us, no one on earth, has the right to mercy. We don't have the right to mercy. Mercy is a gift. And it's a gift of God that we're asked to give to one another. We don't have the right to mercy. That's the definition of mercy. I forgive you. I invite you back. You who are families, you understand that better than ever I do, because so many of you share with me, my son is homosexual. And it's broken my heart because I was thinking of him this, that, something else. And now he wants to bring his partner home for Christmas. What am I supposed to do? You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. You have to love your son, love your daughter. Their decision is whatever they make. Your decision is made for you. You love God and you love one another. Remember Jesus on the cross, he was up there with the sinners. He touched the leper, last Sunday's gospel. They said, what's this man doing eating with sinners, for goodness sake? Doesn't he know who they are? Doesn't he know who this woman is? She's a prostitute. What sort of a man is he? He's a man of love and mercy. And he knew the law. And he knew that the law, that mercy was the law. and that wherever Jesus went, he was merciful. And I can just tell you, and I think we were talking about this the other day, you know, I'm not a parent, and sometimes, you know, I ache about that because I think I'd love to have been a parent. I think it would have been a mess, absolute mess. I've been to a number of births, you know, for one reason and another, sometimes quite sad because it might be an anencephalic child, you know, no top on the head and so on. It's awful for nurses, for mother, it's wicked. Sometimes it's just because good friends. I'm not given much to weeping, but I've never been at a birth that I haven't cried. And I've often thought, if that was my baby, I think I'd get a sight of it and then I'd have this massive heart attack and my kid would be brought up without a father. But I envy you in many ways that extraordinary experience it must be. I don't understand what it must be. I dream about what it must be, but I don't understand it. But you will never hear people humbly before their God in reconciliation. And I do. I have for 50 years. And it is the most extraordinary experience. And mercy comes easily when we see the naked soul of the person humbly before their God. There is nothing more beautiful about a human being than being nakedly humble before their God. Father, am I right? I'm right. It's the great privilege of priesthood, along with the Eucharist, of course, and so on. But it's the great privilege. And I wish you could share it sometimes, like I wish I could share your parenting, you know, being a parent. You'll never do that, and I'm sorry about that, but I just want to say to you that it's one of the things that the reality of mercy becomes tangible when you see people weeping at the fact that as sinful as they are and understand themselves to be, this gentle, merciful God touches them and heals them. And they go out whole and dignified and complete again. That's what mercy's about. Mercy's not about changing the law. We know the law. It's not about changing doctrine. We know the doctrine. But what does it look like in real life? I just want to look at a couple of other things here. I want to talk in our workshop about vision. I have a background in therapy, and one of the great therapists, I think I went from London to Chicago to the university there just to thank him for his work. Powell, who was actually a Jesuit priest. Fantastic man and fantastic insight into humanity. But he has a thing called vision therapy. And what he means by that, and other people have similar things but don't do it as well, he says that how we see something actually dictates our emotional response. And I believe that with all my heart. Not because it's some theory, but because it works. For instance, he says, if you see God as a policeman, well, emotionally, you won't want to see much of him. Because when you do see him, you'll be checking your speed and checking, you know, have I got my licence yet? And then you drift away and you think, oh God, I didn't get into trouble there, thank goodness for that. So that would be your relationship, how you see God and how your emotional response is. He said, if you see him as a social worker, well, when you're in trouble, you go there, you know, you need help. When you don't need help, you don't need to go there at all. And so you see him and your action is, I'm in trouble, I better see God. I'm not in trouble, I don't need to. He said, but if you see him, as Jesus taught us in the Our Father, as Abba, and you who are fathers here, you know better than anyone on earth what that word means in Aramaic. Abba doesn't translate as father in English. What does your little one, and now your little grandchildren if you're old enough, I spend a lot of time on planes these days, and when I go off the plane, often I see a mother holding one or two littlies, you know, and she's saying to them, can you see him yet? Can you see him yet? And they say, no, no, no. And then when he comes out, they bolt. Now what I'm asking you as fathers, what do they say to you? Daddy, Dad, my dear Daddy, here's my daddy. And they rush to you and embrace you, and your heart must feel that it's going to burst. That's the word that Jesus used in Aramaic. Whatever that word is, that's it. I watched in Darwin the other day as I got off a plane. I was kind of voyeuristic. I was making out I was doing something, but I was watching to see what happened. And this little girl raced, and the dad had to get down on his knees because she would have knocked him over. And when she come back, I was still just standing there, and I heard her saying to her dad, "And you're never, ever, ever allowed to go away again." So that fixed him up. But that's the word that Jesus used. And that's a beautiful relationship, how we see God. How do we see God? If we see God like that, well, we can come to him when we've sinned. And we know he won't be, wrapped in that, but he's never going to dismiss us. We know that. And he's going to be merciful. And mercy is a gift. And mercy is a gift that comes from loving. And we know that God loves us, and we know that in the person of Jesus he loves us.
Father Michael, what's been the highlight of the Renaissance of Marriage conference for you?
A real highlight for me has been, well, first of all, maybe if I just answer the question in terms of how the reason why I came is because I'm of the mind that when it comes to the sanctity of marriage, unless we are trying to deepen our awareness of the dignity of marriage, that we're going to be part of the problem rather than part of the solution. But then in the midst of the conference, I had to eat humble pie because I thought, in a certain sense, I have been part of the problem, because in recognising that there are such good resources out there to help couples prepare for marriage, I haven't been using such resources. And so I think I can do better in preparing couples for marriage with the assistance of things like smart loving and the many other resources that are available, rather than just try and do it on my own. So to have that collective wisdom and the assistance that's out there, and specifically and most especially the lived witness of couples who can be part of that preparation program, I think that is something which is a great help.
Greetings from Brisbane, Australia, which is very far from where most of you are. In Jesus Christ, what we hear, what we discover, is the good news. Here we find in Jesus Christ, crucified and risen, good news for everybody. And that's why Shalom Media really does have a contribution to make. Shalom Media is seeking to communicate to families and to show to the world the truth and the beauty of what the family is within the plan of God. May the blessing of God really come to you through all that is offered in Shalom World by Shalom Media. The word Shalom itself comes from Hebrew, as you know, and it means peace. May the blessing of God's peace, the Shalom of God, for which we were created, may it come to you from the God who is peace, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Shalom World, God's own channel.